first let me apologize that it took so long to get this second video up. The more that I thought about the personal SHTF situation, the more logistically difficult that it got for me to plan it out and actually make it happen the way I could kind of see it in my head. So I'm going to break it down into a couple of different videos. In a personal SHTF, as I talked before, being on the side of the road was in my truck. A lot of resources, a lot of equipment and tools and supplies in my truck. Way too much to go through. So I think I'm going to do the truck in a separate video. And then for now, we're just going to go into the truck. I'll take you with me and see. Here in the truck, I have the pad just for leaning against. This is a storage container, which has supplies in it. Excuse the mess. I work out of this truck. Radio comms, CB radio, just standard 40 channel Citizens band with exterior antenna permanently mounted. We'll go over all that when I do discuss the truck situation. So for now, let's just go work stuff. More work stuff. Sunshade. Okay. Now, let me see if I can get this to you. In the truck, is my bag. As we spoke before, it's an emergency bag, 3-day emergency bag. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this bag. Difficult with one hand. In fact, I think I have to move the seat to actually get the bag out. So let's see if we can pull this up. We'll get the bag out. Bag weighs about 30 pounds, a little heavier. Water bottles, 2 Nalgene bottles, and then extra pair of boots with socks and a beanie hat down in the boots. And that's where that lives and is stored. As you can see, there's the storage box in the truck. We'll go through that at another date on another video. So for now, let's take the bag, which is down here on the ground now. We'll take this bag inside and we will go through it and start with that. So be right back with you. All right, welcome back. I have unloaded the bag. I thought about doing it piece by piece on the video, but I thought it'd be better if I just get it all out and run through it from end to end to show you what it was. To start, I believe I mentioned, or I believe I used the term Nalgene bottle. These are not Nalgene bottles. These are a bottle from Walmart. 2 of them that were fairly inexpensive, but they do the same thing as a Nalgene bottle. Basically the same plastic. Am I in the right frame? Let's turn that. All right, that looks better. All right, the first pouch is, there were these small admin pouches on the front of the bag. The first pouch was first aid and hygiene. Some sunscreen, some toothpaste, some soap / shampoo. It's like 2 in 1. You can use it for both. And some deodorant. And again, first aid kit. And this is a little, just a kit that I put together. Has a lighter, some nail clippers, some tweezers, a small little sewing kit in there. I forget where I got it, but it worked and it didn't take up a lot of space. The second pouch was my fire pouch. With that, I had some fire starter. It's kind of like a bird's nest when you break it open, and looks like shredded up straw or hay. These work pretty good. I probably got them at Walmart or maybe even the grocery store. I don't know. A lot of this stuff I've had for some time, so I don't always know when or where I got it from. If you remember, in this pouch, there was a small mini Bic lighter, so there's going to be several of those around. Here's another lighter, as well as some matches and the striking board for the matches, as well as a ferro rod with a striker on a paracord lanyard that can be unraveled and used as cordage if I would need to, but I have cordage in other places. As we dug into the bag, which we'll show you that real quick, the two small pouches were in the front, MOLLE attached. The water bottle holders are on the sides, MOLLE attached, but there's only one layer of MOLLE, so it flops around a little bit. Once there's water in it, it kind of weighs it down, doesn't move as much. The bouncing does get a bit annoying, but I work with what I have, so this is what I have. This bag does not have built-in water bottle holders like a lot of bags do. On the front are two pouches, here and here, and I'll show you what was in those two pouches next. This is a non-disposable, but yet semi-disposable. It's a poncho. It's a step above a disposable poncho, but it's not like a rain jacket. Not super durable, but with those disposable ponchos, almost if you breathe on them too heavy, they get a hole in them. So I thought I had some of those in here. I probably moved them to the box in the truck merely because I had this in the bag. Next we have my navigation kit, which this is basic maps, a Right in the Rain pad, a couple of pens, and a small little 6-inch metal ruler for navigating. If I have no idea where I'm at, or I have to go a straight line to where I need to be, knowing where I'm at, this helps tremendously. It's also road maps if I decide to walk the road, but if I decide to go cross country to make a straight line, this will help and get the job done. That works in conjunction with a base plate compass. There's many brands, a lot of recommendation on brands. This one I probably got off Amazon or Sportsman's Guide. It's a Brunton, not sure, but it does the job. I've used it many times. I've probably had this for close to 20 years, and I've used it in different occasions. And that would be my navigation. The next is just a cinch bag or a compression bag that I've repurposed into a food bag where I keep a couple of meals, some rice meals, or I keep a meal, some rice meals, some pouch tuna. Certainly not enough calories to sustain me for very long, but a couple of days, some dry soup, some peanut butter, a few condiments to make life not so hateful. If I have to use all this stuff, some coffee packets for the same purpose, and some hydration packets if it's extremely hot out and I need electrolytes and hydration in my water. Certainly would not dump those into both bottles, but I would utilize one bottle for water and one bottle for the hydration packets. This is a flask. Everybody knows what that's for. It's an emergency. It's a little bit of weight. It's not very bulky. Kind of rides in there. It's got a curve to it. Kind of rides in there without me really knowing it's there. It's bulky. But if I'm in a situation where I'm utilizing what's in this bag and shit has really hit the fan, I'm going to appreciate this little nip in the evenings as I'm trying to collect myself. I have my water filtration. This is just a standard Sawyer mini kit. It comes with the bag and the back flush syringe. Collect the water in the bag, pump it through the filter. This more than likely, and does not, this will screw on standard water bottles like your Aquafina or your Dasani, any of the standard water bottles, soda bottles probably as well. Screws onto those, and you can squeeze it through, or it screws on the bag, which is what it's designed to do. Fill the bag with water, screw it on, squeeze it through the bag, and you have filtered water. I would never trust drinking directly out of creeks and streams. Not to say I haven't done it, but I would never trust it with as much Giardia and cryptosporidium and all that other stuff that you have to worry about. For the sake of 20 or 25 bucks for a water filter kit, it's probably smart to have it, because the last thing you want to do is get very sick when you're in a position to have to use this stuff. I have a standard bandana that I have installed a plastic grommet in. It's just a standard cotton bandana. The grommets I probably got off Amazon or at Joann Fabrics or Michael's or something. I don't remember. I've had them for years, and I put these together years ago for hiking. The reason I put a grommet on it is because I can hook it with a carabiner to my strap to wipe my face, to put over my mouth, or anything along those lines. It's easily accessible. A Silcock key. Commercial buildings, the water spigots usually do not have a handle on it. You can't just open the spigot like you can at your house on a commercial building. It requires a special key. These, again, an Amazon purchase. They're fairly inexpensive. And if you're in a situation, an urban environment where you're stranded, you need, to get to another location, and you're going to pass through an urban area, getting water is vital, especially if it's as easily accessible as the side of a building. Even if the power goes out, the water in the building will be enough to fill one of those bottles and then some, just by what's in the pipes, which 95% of the time what's in the pipes is going to be clean, but I would still filter it. Just to be on the safe side, you can never be too careful. But having the key is what's going to be necessary to open that spigot on the outside of that building. A couple of Mylar blankets, just the emergency standard Mylar blankets. A dust mask. This is probably from back in the COVID days. It's just a standard hook on your ears, black mask like we all saw during COVID. Doesn't take up hardly any space. A headlight. In addition to my EDC flashlight, which I keep on my person 99% of the time, in my bag I keep a headlight. The headlight gives me hands-free. I can put it on, and both of my hands are available. Wherever I look, the light goes with me. One thing I have learned, thank goodness I didn't learn it the hard way. I watched the Sensible Prepper channel, and many times he's mentioned that he left the batteries in a device. I don't remember if it was a night vision goggle or a scope or something, but he left the batteries in it, not thinking, and it corroded and it ruined it. I don't leave the batteries in mine. I keep enough batteries for it, just one set. That's all I got. I don't have any extras in here. I have my EDC and my headlight, which take the same batteries. And then I have just the 3 batteries held together with a little bit of a Gorilla tape. It's probably 8 to 10 inches, not that much, but tape nonetheless if I would need some tape for anything. Here's a second compass. This is just a little button compass, maybe a glorified button compass. It's not a plate compass. I can't calculate a bearing or shoot an azimuth with this. All I can do is, hold this and see which direction is the basic direction that I'm heading. This, along with an emergency whistle, is attached to a carabiner that also goes on me, so I don't have to keep digging the big one out with the map. I get a general direction. I can use this to stay kind of on that general direction as long as I have my waypoints or my visual point that I'm heading towards. And then we have, this is a knife semi multi-tool. It has a glass breaker on it. It has a seatbelt cutter. It has a small flashlight, which is kind of neat. The batteries died years ago, and I have no idea what kind of battery goes in it. It's a very tiny little pen light, almost for reading a book sitting in a tent. It doesn't go very far. I wasn't very impressed with it at all. Great concept. This is several years old, so I'm sure the technology for small lights has gotten better. This one, unfortunately, is not the greatest. Like I said, great concept. It also has a very tiny little ferro rod, little baby ferro rod. It does work. You strike it with the spine of the blade, and it will make sparks. Certainly not as many sparks or as high level of sparks as the big rod does, but it's a redundancy. And then, of course, a blade that's fairly sharp. It's got a serration at one end and a smooth blade at the other with a bottle opener, in case I need to open a long neck rolling rock. Knife multi-tool. Toothbrush. Normally the toothbrush would be in with the hygiene kit, but it doesn't fit in the bag. So I could cut it off to make it fit. I just haven't got around to that yet. It was a travel toothbrush. They come in a pack of 2. We've all bought them. And I threw a little cap on it, threw it in there just to be safe. Now, that takes care of food and navigation and first aid and fire starting and water and light. Those are almost all of the basic necessities. The next thing we have to be concerned with is shelter. For that, I have a handful of titanium tent stakes. Pretty lightweight. It's 6 or 8 of them. I don't know. I choose to have 3 different types of cordage. Along with the ferro rod paracord lanyard, I have additional cordage. I have standard 550 paracord. It's probably about 50 feet here. That's more than enough to do almost anything you need to do bushcraft wise. I have some survival 550 cord, which I'm not sure if this is actually 550, because when they call it 550 cord, it's supposed to be 550 pounds per square inch is what this will hold. Would I try to hold 550 pounds with this? Probably not. I would double or triple, even quadruple it up if I was messing around with that much weight. But that's what they call it, 550 cord. Same thing here. This is survival cord. This has 2 extra strands in it. One that is a fuse, like a fire starter, or can be used as a fuse, and one that's like a monofilament fishing line that could also be used for sewing. So it could be thread, it could be fishing line, but it's also paracord if you use it, as the whole. And then I have some number 36 bank line. This is tarred bank line. Great stuff. Tougher than hell, this stuff is. You can pull it tight, you can pull it taut. It's great to have in conjunction with the other cordages for any type of shelter building. Now, this is from the Pathfinder School. If you've watched Dave Canterbury, he is a part of, an instructor of, maybe a founder of, I'm not sure of his exact connection with the Pathfinder School, but they have their own products. And this, they call it the All-Purpose Emergency Survival Blanket. Now, basically what I like about this is it works as a poncho. It has grommets embedded in it, just like a regular poncho. One side of it is green, so it gives you some stealthiness. The other side is mylar, so it's reflective, much like your mylar blankets. This can be used as a blanket. You can wrap up in this, and it would probably give you some protection from the elements. My purpose for this is to use it like a tarp. I can use my bank line and my paracord, either or, to make a ridge line or any type of ground shelter with conjunction with the tent stakes that I have, and I could create a number of ground shelters or a canopy, more or less. This for me is a canopy, and I'll get to that here as to why I use it or would use it as a canopy here in a minute. I bet the bag's waterproof because there's no seam at the bottom. There's only seams on the sides. You could probably fill this with water. Never thought of that until just now. Either way, it's the emergency blanket / tarp. I saw it in one of his videos and a light bulb went off. I thought, this is the perfect item to go in conjunction with my hammock. Inside here is a hammock with hammock straps. You go tree to tree. Above the hammock, now this hammock does have a bug net attached to it, which is a necessity in my opinion if you're going to end up sleeping in the woods. You're going to get eaten alive overnight if you don't have things to deter bugs like bug spray or a bug net or a fire that creates a little bit of smoke. Now, with the hammock strung in between two trees and the survival blanket used as a tarp above it, the underside of it is reflective. So depending on how I construct that tarp and the shape and where I place my fire, I could utilize those positions to circulate and radiate any heat coming off that fire. If you watch Corporal's Corner on YouTube, his channel is great. I watch it every week. Every Sunday morning he drops videos and I don't miss them. I catch him every single Sunday with my coffee, and he'll teach you 800 different ways to build a shelter with or without a tarp. I suggest you watch his videos because it'll give you a lot of great ideas. You go out, you try a couple of them, you see which one works the best for you in the area that you're in and is the easiest to construct, and roll with it. The hammock, or I can lay straight on the ground. That would be a bit cold in some parts of the year. But again, Corporal's Corner, many examples of how to get yourself up off the ground. This for me is an easy way to do it. String a hammock, throw a tarp above it, trap the heat, keep the rain off of me. That's a no-brainer. I also have a cook set for the food that I brought. This cook set and this food is specifically kind of designed to go with itself. If you watch some other videos, different guys will use different pans, different mugs, different pots, and it all comes down to what type of food that you do have with you or that you're willing to bring. Some don't bring anything to cook at all. I like a hot meal. If I'm absolutely miserable, it's a personal SHTF. I had to leave my vehicle. I'm several days walk home. This is all the gear that I have. These are the only options that are going to be available to me. Because it's all of the gear that I have, I at least have some things to cook with. I have a cook cup, which can boil water, and I can also drink out of it, the coffee. The fuel for the small backpacking stove. It has a stand so it doesn't fall over and catch your shelter on fire. Just screws on. Now this one screws on to the top of the can directly, or it has an adapter that screws on to a 1 pound propane can. So if I'm multiple days from home and I stumble across one of those 1 pound bottles, I can still use my stove. If I never see one of those, I at least have this can of fuel. And I've seen videos where thru hikers have used this. Some do, some don't. But the ones that do, this size can could last a week, sometimes a week and a half, depending on how much cooking they're doing. If they're just boiling water once a day, probably closer to 2 weeks. But with all this that I have, plus coffee, I would probably burn through this in about a week. But honestly, I don't have enough gear here to go more than a week. So this serves the purpose. The adapter, just in case this, I drop it, it gets a bust in it and the fuel comes out or something. I at least have the adapter that goes with it. And then my second pot, which is just a small little pot. It's barely enough with water to do the Nor rice meal space wise, and even then it's kind of iffy. I have some camping silverware, plasticware that probably came from Walmart. I think it had a ring, and they were longer, and they were all connected to a ring. To fit in here, I cut them off and sanded them down so it was kind of smooth. And now they fit inside of here, so I can pack all this together neatly. I did just recently get the folding handle skillet from Corporal's Corner. He's been making those himself in Ohio. He has 3 or 4 different models, pipe nub, cowboy skillet, and the folding handle. I chose the folding handle to fit in the bag better. In fact, I think he has the folding handles 2.0 now, where the handle itself actually overlaps the edge of the pot so it doesn't fall down in, to where the model that I have is his earlier model, which when you fold it in, the handle actually falls down in the pot. I haven't used it enough to see where that's an issue, but obviously people messaged him or commented on his videos that that was a problem, and he fixed it. You know, this guy's great. He makes great gear. He does great videos, and I enjoy watching him every week. Now, bug spray again. Just a pair of basic gloves. These aren't insulated. These are just basic work gloves. Nothing fancy. They're cloth. They have a little bit of a, I don't want to say suede or leather, palm, a little bit thicker layer palm area. I think I got these in a 3-pack at Home Depot for about $10. But they would keep my hands a little warmer than no gloves. And if I had to handle rough debris, it would keep me from getting cut. I don't have much of a med kit here. Getting cut could be detrimental. I could get infected. And that I would like to avoid. So having a pair of gloves is good. This being my wintertime pack out, which is why the bag has come out of the truck. I will repack all this to my summer pack out. But right now my winter pack out included this, which this is a cool thing. I don't remember where I got it. It's just a basic pullover hoodie. It has a really big pocket. It's not a bear skin, which I've seen those, and they're pricey. I'm sure they're fantastic. I think Sensible Prepper did a review on them recently. I watched, and he was impressed with them. If I end up being okay with spending the money, and I can spend the money, it's tough nowadays. We all know how difficult the economy's been. I would never suggest throwing boatloads of money at this stuff. I'm more of a run what you brung, make do with what you have. I go for function and not fancy. This functions extremely well. It's made of an army blanket. Supposedly the company that made these took army blankets and cut them up into patterns, sewed them together into pullover hoodies. I have used this and worn this several times in the winter just to test it out. It is extremely warm when the wind's not blowing. It doesn't block the wind very well. So an outer shell would almost be, necessary. But as far as an insulating layer, you can't beat it. It was extremely warm. It is wool. I've seen on the On3 channel with Jason, I think is his name. He just recently put up a video where he compared wool with synthetic sweatshirts or blankets. I don't remember what it was, but it was wool, 100% wool material. And he took a roll of toilet paper and he wrapped it up inside of it and he stuck it on his picnic table right next to a synthetic blanket or something that was, like nylon type. Same thing, roll of toilet paper, and let it pour down rain on it for hours, and then pulled them out to sea. Neither one were wet. So the water repellent level of this, I won't say waterproof, I'll say the water repellent level of this is pretty good. I would still recommend a rain jacket. I do keep a rain jacket in the truck, an outer shell. It's a Carhartt, just a Carhartt rain jacket. Wife got it for me for Christmas or my birthday or something a few years ago. I work outside, and you can always use a rain jacket when it's raining. So just to see what it was like to work with the two together in conjunction, one time I put this on over top of a flannel shirt or a long sleeve t-shirt. I don't remember what it was, but I put this on with the rain jacket over it. Extremely hot. The rain jacket doesn't allow you to breathe, probably like the poncho. You're not going to get a lot of air movement. You're going to sweat. It's going to be hot, but if it's 10 degrees outside, you probably won't be. You'll just be warm. So the wool blanket pullover is a bit overkill, but as I said, this is wintertime. And if you think back to the first Personal SHTF video, I think that the temperatures were in the 20s. It was pretty cold outside. Now, moving on to, I have my tarp and I have my poncho, but I also have my whoopee. This is a military poncho, so I actually have a second poncho wrapped up in here, as well as the military blanket or the poncho liner that goes with it. This is a sleep system, more or less. It's a poncho and a liner. When you put them together, you kind of make like a makeshift sleeping bag. It hooks together and you can get inside of it. That in conjunction with a little bivouac or some sort of little shelter, and it will keep you alive. The whoopee is what it's called. It's just a military poncho with a poncho liner that can be used as a sleep system. I love it because it works and it's compact and it's lightweight. So in conjunction with my tarp, which can be my shelter over a ridge line or on the ground, I have a hammock, which hangs between two trees. Obviously, it's a hammock. The straps are in here. The hammock has a bug net. I can get myself up off the ground if it's cold out, because nothing will make you colder than laying on the ground. And with the exception of a contractor trash bag, which I keep in the truck, we'll see those when we go through the truck itself. I have nothing here unless I lay on this tarp to keep me off the ground. If there's no trees, I'm in a field, I'm going to use the tarp for the ground as well as some sort of shelter. There's several different methods of making a shelter. I would utilize one of those if there were no trees available to me, but where I live in the northeastern section of the country, there's no shortage of trees here. So I have the hammock and the whoopee and the tarp and enough cordage and stakes to where I can build a number of different shelters that I could utilize in the situation. Finally, I have an extra pair of medium weight wool socks. So if you remember, the boots that are in the truck also have a pair of wool socks. Your feet, if you have to walk a long distance, coming from a guy who spent 10 years as a land surveyor, walking a long distance is brutal on your feet. If you're a hiker, you'll understand that. Even if you just walk your neighborhood with your dog and you walk a lot of miles, you can understand that as well. So keeping your feet healthy and dry is very important. Otherwise, you're not making any miles. You're SOL. So I have the pair that I'm wearing, obviously, plus a second pair, plus a third pair in the boots, in the truck, as well as a beanie cap, like a watch cap, because it's part of my winter gear. Now that I'm going through the truck and through the emergency bag, I'll pull a lot of the winter gear out and store it away for the winter. I'll roll with the summer gear. In the fall, I'll go through this process and the winter gear will come back in. Now, a couple extra things that I don't always carry, but were in this bag nonetheless, were an emergency shovel. It's just an old military folding shovel. It sits at the bottom of the bag. It's extremely heavy. It's bulky. Is it necessary? Probably not. Would it be helpful in the wintertime if I'm stuck in the snow or I'm stuck on some ice? I could unfold this, use the edge to chop the ice. Where I live, sometimes we get snowstorms, we get ice storms. Again, I'd rather have this and not need it. Does it need to live in my emergency bag? Probably not. I have a box behind the seat of my truck. I also have a milk crate in the back of the truck with other items in it, it could probably live in there. I threw it in here probably 2 winters ago and just haven't taken it out yet. It's been what it is. And then a straight edge knife or a non-folding knife. We have the small folding knife, and then part of my EDC is another folding knife. There's one in my center console, a folding knife, a small one. And then I have a fixed blade. This is just a standard Marine K-bar. This is way more knife than you would need for processing any type of animal. I guess maybe unless it was a moose. We don't have moose where I live. If I was to have to be in a situation where I would have to trap or harvest an animal to eat, which I have 3 or 4 days worth of food here, so I shouldn't have to do that. But if the situation would arise, it could be used for that. But to be honest, this is more so used for processing wood. If I have to stay out overnight and it's chilly or cold, I have to build a fire. I have the fire starters. The machete has a saw blade on the back side of the machete. It's a straight blade on one side, a saw blade on the back. I can actually cut wood with that, or I can chop it, down into sizable pieces. If it needs to be split, I could baton it. Ooh, that's pretty sharp. I remember I sharpened this. I could baton it and split it. And I've batoned a ton of wood with this knife, and it's never broke. It's never let me down. It's heavy. It's bulky. It's big. Maybe I would carry it on my belt. I do have a setup where I have a belt and a chest rig that I don't keep with this bag. I normally wear a belt with my inside the waistband holster. If I'm not wearing that, then I have a belly band that's a holster. Would I wear this on my belt? Maybe. I prefer it in the bag because it's not something that I think I would need immediately on hand. If it comes to personal protection, I'm a concealed weapons carry holder in multiple states. I normally have a firearm on my person, which would serve that purpose as far as self-defense goes. Could I use a knife? Yeah, but do I want to be the guy that brings a knife to a gunfight? Probably not. And that pretty much rounds it out. The bag it's designed, or at least put together for me personally in the area that I live in. I'm not going to say that my way is a right way or my way is a wrong way or anyone else's way is a right way or a wrong way. I think watching other YouTubers out there like Dave Canterbury and Such and Corporal's Corner, Corporal Sean Kelly, those guys, they talk about things that you would need. I think Dave Canterbury calls it the 10 C's, where you have cordage and concealment and combustion, and he's got everything starts with a C. If you're into the backpacking, through hikers, backpackers, they call it the 10 essentials, where you have navigation and light and fire and water. And so in a nutshell, everything you see here can be defined multiple ways depending on who you ask. I'm not saying anyone is right or anyone is wrong. They're all different. They're allowed to be different, and it's okay that they're different. And I learned from all of those sources, from the backpackers, from the through hikers, the day hikers, the survivalists, the gear reviewers, the preppers. I watch all of their channels, and I learned from all of them. 25, 30 years ago, 35, maybe 40 years ago, yeah, maybe even 45 years ago, whenever I started this journey of outdoors preparedness, having a backpack and hiking and camping and fishing, I didn't have the resource of the internet and YouTube to see what lots of other guys were doing. I'd get lucky every now and again at 7-Eleven with a magazine for backpacking or hiking, or I think Soldier of Fortune was a magazine back then. It was a little over the top, but I read it or leafed through it nonetheless. Now there are much more resources and educational material that you can learn from and take little bits and pieces from each source. And as you get out into the outdoors, as you hike, as you camp, or as you fish, or as you hunt, as you partake in these outdoor activities, you can utilize all of these different methods and skills and then kind of tweak it to what works well for you. So that's basically what I've done. I tweak what I learn to what works well for me, and it's a continuing learning process. Some things, I'll say that these are great. They're cheap. I think they're like $4 for $5 at the grocery store. But the pot, it could be bigger because it's messy. To make this in this, it spills over the side and it makes a mess, and it's just not as efficient as I would like it to be. These, perfect. Boil water, open pouch, dump it in, close pouch, let it sit for 10 minutes or whatever it says. 5 minutes. Even better. Eat it right out of the thing. Is it the greatest? No. Is it better than nothing? Yes, it is. And Mountain House is one of the better ones. There's a ton of them out there on the market. But I like the Knorr meals. You throw in a packet of tuna, or I think chicken. You can get chicken in these type packs. I throw that together and boom, I have a hot meal that tastes a little bit better. In my food pack, I do keep some condiments. I got some hot sauce and some ketchup and some pepper and some salt, to jazz it up a little bit. I have the coffee pouches. So once I'm finished with the boiling water, I can boil more water, make a cup of coffee. I got some sweetener. I even have little creamers. These been in here 6 months. These are the ones you find at like the convenience store for putting in your coffee. They don't need refrigerated. They can stay out. They're safe. Excuse me. I don't sit on them for any great length of time. I'll grab a handful. I throw them in my bag. Every 6 months, I go through my bag for the seasons. They will come out. I have 4 of them and 4 packs of coffee. So I can make 4 cups of coffee if I had to. I could stretch this food 4 days. I have 4 cups of coffee. I could go 4 days with this. So I at least have 4 creamers. These will not stay in here this time. I will either use them here at the house or I'll just toss them. They're free at 7-Eleven or Wawa or Royal Farm or any other convenience store or truck stop that has coffee will have these little creamer thingies. And that's what I use. Okay, that does it for my emergency bag that I keep in my truck. Now again, I'm going to reiterate that everybody's bag is going to be different. If you live in the northwestern part of the United States, you're going to have different stuff in your bag. But you're going to have to cover the same subjects: water, food, shelter. If you live in the desert, same thing. You're just going to have different items. If you live in the south, same thing. Different items, but you're still going to have to cover the same essentials: shelter, water, food, fire, protection, and medical. And that does it. That wraps it up. It's not that difficult. I wouldn't suggest going out and buying all this stuff. I know they sell those kits online. Amazon sells them, probably multiple other places where somebody builds the bag for you and you just buy it. You could go that route if you have that disposable cash to spend. But I will say that if you do that, and then you go and try to utilize that gear, because knowing how to use all this is just as important, if not more important, than having all this. You're going to tweak it. You're going to buy that ready-made kit, and there's going to be something in it that you don't like or something in it that you wish worked better, and you're going to tweak it and change it out. So my advice would be to start small with a bag, take a few day hikes, set up a shelter, maybe an overnighter, see what works for you. You may not want to carry Knorr rice meals. They make these survival food. It's basically a calorie bar, comes in a block. I think it's like 9,000 calories for a block about yay big, which takes up less space than all of my stuff combined. Probably not the most flavorful. I know Sensible Prepper, he says they aren't bad, that he actually enjoys them. I haven't tried them, so I can't say on that subject either way. But if I was to come across them, I would try them. It could be something that could work for me. It's just not something I've ever tried. I've tried and I've eaten. You know, we eat this stuff at home. So, you know, I eat this at home. You know, so it's best to have what you eat at home so it doesn't tear your belly up. Mountain house meals, I generally don't eat those at home, but I do camp quite often in the summertime, mostly car camping. We'll be taking some car camping trips this year on YouTube. Y'all, I'm going to take y'all with me. I'm not especially a fan of the mountain house meals or any of the freeze-dried instant meals. I have them in a pinch, but when I'm car camping, I got my truck and it's full of gear and a cooler. So I take actual food and I cook it at my campsite, which is kind of like glamping. But I've seen several other videos, specifically Corporal's Corner, you know, where he'll use his folding hander or his cowboy skillet and he'll make some eggs and bacon or some ravioli or something he can open in a can, or, you know, open a pouch of hot dogs or sausage or something, you know, stuff that he takes out for his solo overnighters, which are great to watch. I look forward to them every week. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. I tried to make certain that I covered everything. If you have any suggestions on things that you've used that do the same job as something that I've used, hey, let me know. I'm always up to learn. This is always a learning process as far as how you're doing it, because each time you do it, you find something that works a little better or not worked as well. So it's always, I'm always a big fan of learning new things or different things and trying them out. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and all that good jazz, and we'll see you next time.